The desert stretched for miles, glowing orange beneath a dying sun. A lone pickup truck sat half buried in dust. Hood popped, smoke curling lazily upward. Inside the cab, Lena, a young journalist with dirt-streaked cheeks, slammed the steering wheel. Perfect. Just perfect, she stepped out, boots crunching against the sand, and shaded her eyes. She was still miles from the nearest gas station. The temperature was already dropping, and night in the desert could be merciless. A distant sound made her freeze. Footsteps on gravel. She spun, heart pounding. A man approached, tall, rugged, wearing a faded bandana and carrying a canteen. He looked equally surprised to see her. "You lost too?" he asked, voice low and rough. Lena kept her stance guarded. "Truck broke down, you?" Horse spooked and ran. "Left me with nothing but this." He held up the half-empty canteen. Despite the tension, there was something steady in his gaze. Protective, not threatening. The wind picked up, carrying the cold bite of oncoming night. "We won't make it far before dark," Lena said. "We need shelter." The stranger nodded. "Name's Cole. There's an old prospector's shack not far from here. We can hole up there until sunrise." Lena hesitated, then followed. The desert around them turned to shadow. The shack was barely standing, a roof patched with tin sand piled against one wall, but it would keep out the wind. Lena lit a lantern she found on a shelf, the warm glow casting long shadows. Cole crouched near the door. "Someone's been here recently," he said, pointing to bootprints outside. Fresh. Lena's journalist instincts kicked in. Who would camp out here? They found an old satchel in the corner. Inside, a map marked with an X not far from their location, and a small notebook filled with frantic scribbles. "This looks like someone was tracking something," Lena murmured. Cole glanced out the window at the darkening horizon. Could be treasure hunters. Or trouble. The air between them thickened, fear and curiosity mingling. Lena caught herself watching the way the lantern light flickered across Cole's face. He looked back, holding her gaze a moment too long. "We should check it out," she whispered. He gave a faint smile. "You're braver than most." They hadn't been gone long when the wind began to howl. Sand whipped through the air, stinging their skin. Cole grabbed Lena's arm. "Back to the shack." They barely made it inside before the storm hit full force. The shack groaned under the wind, dust seeping through cracks. Lena sat against the wall, shivering. Cole shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "You'll freeze," she protested. "I'll manage." He crouched beside her, their shoulders nearly touching. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the fear, and something softer, in both their faces. "You always this calm during near-death experiences?" she asked, trying to break the tension. He chuckled softly. "Only when someone's watching." For a moment the storm outside faded. They were just two souls caught in the same fight, warmth slowly blooming between them. When the storm passed, they followed the map by moonlight. The desert felt eerie, silent except for their footsteps. They reached the marked spot, a half-buried crate under a mesquite tree. Inside was a stash of old gold coins and a weathered journal. Lena flipped through it, her hands trembling. "This is from the 1800s. It's a prospector's diary," she said. "He wrote about hiding this after an ambush." Cole exhaled slowly. "We just stumbled on history." A noise behind them made Lena jump. A figure stood in the dark, a man with a scarf over his face. Cole stepped in front of Lena instinctively. "You don't want to do this," Cole warned. After a tense standoff, the stranger backed off, disappearing into the night. Lena's pulse hammered, but when she looked at Cole, all she saw was safety. "Guess we're even now," she said softly. "Guess so," he replied, and for a second, the danger made their connection electric. By the time they returned to the shack, dawn was breaking. Pink and gold light spilled over the horizon, washing the desert in color. Lena leaned against the doorway, exhausted but smiling. "Looks like we made it," she said. Cole stood beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Couldn't have done it without you." She turned to him, heart thudding. "So what happens now?" He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "Maybe we see where this goes together." Lena's smile softened. The desert had tried to break them, but instead it had given them something worth holding on to. The ride back to town was quiet but comfortable. The desert was bathed in gold, as though rewarding them for surviving the night. Lena sat in the passenger seat of Cole's borrowed truck, clutching the prospector's journal to her chest. Cole finally broke the silence. "You going to write about this?" Lena smiled faintly. Maybe, but some things aren't meant to be printed. Some things are just meant to be kept. Cole glanced at her, impressed. You don't meet many reporters who think like that. Guess I'm not like most reporters. He grinned at that, and for the first time since they met, Lena saw his guard lower completely. At the sheriff's office, they handed over the gold and the journal. The sheriff whistled low. You two just solved a mystery that's been talked about for 100 years. Lena felt proud but strangely sad to let it go. Cole noticed, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Hey, you did good, the sheriff grinned.
Guess fate wanted you two to meet. Lena blushed, glancing at Cole. Maybe fate had played a part, or maybe the desert had simply stripped them down to who they really were.
That evening, Lena stood outside the little diner where Cole had asked her to meet him. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in reds and purples. Cole approached, holding 2 mugs of coffee. I figured we could toast the end of our adventure, he said, offering her one. She smiled. And the start of a new one? He nodded, stepping closer. If you're up for it. For a moment, everything else, and the dust, the danger, the long night diary faded. Lena felt the weight of the desert lift from her shoulders as Cole gently touched her. And, guess the desert gave me more than a story, she whispered, and me more than a long night, he said softly. When he kissed her, it felt like the first light of dawn, warm, patient, and full of promise.
Like, share, and subscribe.